Well, hello, everybody. This is Larry from the Blue Collar Nation podcast. And I'm here with my intangible business partner, the tech whisperer, Mr. Eric Sprague. What's happening, Eric? How are you today?
Well, I can hear you through my wall, so that's weird. But also, how am I intangible? What does that mean?
I looked it up and I said an asset such as leadership and goodwill, that's an attribute. So this is a compliment towards you because you have intangible assets that you bring to the table that benefits everybody. How about that, huh?
So does that mean I have no tangible assets?
I didn't say that. I'm being kind here. You know, we've got people here listening,
All right.
people that are going to be judging my behavior with you. So I have to keep it on the up and up.
Yeah, you're getting a reputation for being awful to me.
You're all good. So anyway, today's podcast is sponsored by Super Tech University. And check it out. We give your technicians intangible assets when they're dealing with the clients themselves, you and their colleagues. And we teach them skills so that they're capable of doing a better job when they're in the field to make your life easier. And we have the intangible Eric Sprague teaches intangible assets. How about that, huh? Bada bing. So anyway, we've got an amazing podcast. Eric, you must have some input there into the commercial.
Yeah, well, you didn't tell anybody what we do. So yeah,
soft skills, intangible skills.
We do soft skills training for field technicians. 3 to 5 minute video every single day talking about personal development, job site behavior, DISC human model of behavior, sales and service. And 85% Harvard study, 85% of all business success comes from your soft skills, only 15 from your technical skills. So train your soft skills.
Go to supertechu.com and check out the content that we have posted there. There's some sample videos from the very serious Mr. Eric Sprague, and you'll get a flavor of what the SuperTech University is. And back to the podcast. We have an amazing guest today, Rico Garcia. He is the host of Restoration Domination Podcast, which we are a big fan of. He's the founder of Ecotech Pro. He is a course creator and coach in marketing, an all-around amazing guy. How are you today, Rico?
Man, that's an amazing intro. Thank you so much, guys. Really, really excited to go ahead and spend some time with you and with your audience, and hopefully we can go ahead and drop some value bombs here today for everybody.
Tons of value bombs. We're very excited.
So, Rico, Larry and I know you personally, so I don't want to play inside baseball right from the get-go. So I think maybe we should start. You have a very interesting backstory. So why don't you just tell all the listeners a little bit about yourself and the journey that you've taken to get to where you are now, because I think that is a good setup for the rest of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if we got enough time on a single hour podcast to fill in like a full intro, but I'll give you the condensed version. So again, my name is Rico Garcia. I am a first generation American, Cuban American, and I originally, my early professional career was as a high ticket salesperson, high ticket sales and closer in the investment arena. So we did a lot of, selling and, dialing and smiling and that whole thing. And eventually that led to me falling in love with marketing. And because to me, marketing, sales in marketing, they go hand in hand. They have to go hand in hand. And marketing really is all about using sales psychology and persuasion psychology in print or in video form or in an audio form. It's just a way to basically pitch to a room. And that was always something that was very intriguing to me. And I fell in love with marketing. And then eventually I ended up opening up a marketing agency, and the marketing agency, which to this day we still have, it's called Alpha Media Agency. And at this point, we just have a very fat red velvet rope. We don't just take on any clients. We have a very specific type of client that we take on. And it's mainly on the consulting side of things. But at any rate, the agency was doing absolutely phenomenal. Funny thing happened though. I had a very, very good friend of mine that I hadn't seen in quite some time. And, he's like working at a small mom and pop restoration shop. And he calls me up one day and he's like, hey man, I'd really like to, get our marketing right and get our presence right. What can you do for me? And I was like, man, you know what? I tell you what, it's been such a long time since the last time we've seen each other. Why don't we just hang out for a couple of days? I'll roll around with you. I'll get a great understanding of your business within 7 days. Plus, I'll really understand what makes your clients tick. And of course, you don't do this for everybody, but because he's a friend, I was willing to take a couple of days off of my schedule. And long story short, by the third day, I look over at him and I'm like, man, is this what you guys do? And he's like, yeah. I was like, we could do this so much better. And that was the birth of our restoration company. And that was it. First month we did, I think, like 20 grand in revenue. It's nothing to write home about, but remember, like, we literally did not have a truck. We did not have a piece of equipment. We did not have anything. We didn't have any program work, no TPA work, nobody sending us referrals. This was just sheer marketing. Second month we doubled it. Month after that we doubled it, and then that was the end of the story. And here we are 6 years later, and somewhere in that process I realized that there was a lack of information, and decided to go ahead and share my journey and the things that I've learned, and pick people's brains live on a podcast. And we developed the Restoration Domination podcast. And that's basically been a fun journey so far.
Okay, I want to do a side note though, because you skipped over my favorite story. The fact that you were running a sandwich shop when you were like 16 years old or something like that. Can you, like, you don't have to go way into the weeds of that,
man,
but my point is that you're an entrepreneur.
Oh, absolutely, man.
All the way.
Absolutely. So and again, this is why I say, like, if my life story, it's enough to fill a couple volumes for sure. I've had some interesting eras. I mean, look, being Cuban American, first generation, I think that most people can agree that immigrants coming into the United States, when they leave their home, they don't really know what they're stepping into, right? So the only thing that they really have is hard work ethic, or at least the majority of them do, right? My father just happened to be one of those individuals, and he also happened to have been a baker. So if anybody knows anything about the baking life, you're up at the wee hours of the morning. You're talking 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Time to make the donuts.
You got to make the bread. You got to make that bread, right? Get those pastries ready, and get set up for the day. And at a very, very early age, and I'm talking like 8, 9 years old, my father would wake me up 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd, jump in the car with him, head on over to the bakery and start making bread and start making pasteles, which is our small little, Cuban type pastries and all that good jazz. And then by the time that I was, I want to say like 16 to 17, I opened up a sandwich shop. My father was buying the building. There just so happened to have been a sandwich shop. And I was like, man, I really want to take the sandwich shop over, because why not? Why close it down? It's generating some decent foot traffic. And that was it. Like, that was like my first exposure to business. And, we did very, very well with that sandwich shop. And from, like, I've got so many of those stories where we were just, acquire places that weren't doing very well. Owners wanted to get out, and we'd go in and turn it around and eventually sell it. It taught me a lot about business. It taught me a lot about people. It taught me a lot about psychology, and just overall good work ethic. And I think that if people just stay persistent at whatever it is that they do, they're not always going to win at every single venture, but eventually you'll go ahead and hit those home runs.
Yeah.
Well, you obviously have that entrepreneurial attitude to make things happen. And that's probably a large part of this. If you're willing to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning with your dad, that's a big deal. And you obviously were ready to make it happen, which is cool.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why I think like, individuals that have kids, every generation that passes, we want to make life for our children a little bit better than we had it. What ends up happening with that, with a lot of entrepreneurs, is what we start creating really cushy lifestyles for our children. It's not because we're bad parents. On the contrary, it's actually the opposite. We're really good parents, and we really, really, love our kids. We don't want them to kind of go through the same struggles. However, that being said, there's a lot of important life lessons that get lost when you're not faced with the necessity to go out and hustle, the necessity to sacrifice a couple of extra hours of sleep. So, hindsight 2020, I'm extremely grateful for everything that, that I had to go through at a very early age, because that gave me a competitive advantage over anybody in my marketplace, just simply because I may not have ever have been the best at any one thing, but I just had more times at bat, right? So if I can work 8 hours in a day, hypothetically, and someone else is working 4 hours, well, at the end of the year, right, I've got 2 years worth of effort into any one endeavor, where this person only put in 1 year of effort, right? Over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Well, that's a big, big difference. And I think that those are lessons that a lot of, especially successful entrepreneurs now, are not really teaching their kids. But I guess that's a subject for another day.
Yeah.
No, it is.
Yeah.
But
I read something, Rico, that reminded me of you saying making it too cushy for your kids and all that. It was something to the effect of, my grandfather took the bus to work. My father drove a pickup truck to work. I drive a Mercedes Benz to work. My son will drive a Lamborghini to work, and his son will take the bus to work.
Yep, basically.
Right?
Yep.
Because just too cush for the Lamborghini kid.
Exactly.
no, the struggle is valuable. At the moment, it doesn't seem like it's worth it, but the struggle creates the hustle, which creates the extra thinking out of the box. And at one point, you're going to, lower your work hours from 8 hours to 4 hours and get all that done in the 4 hours, because you're just hustling in your head with everything and making it happen.
Exactly. I totally agree.
Okay, so let's go back around, Rico, to when you started in restoration. So you and your business partner just like hit the ground running, no equipment. Larry and I can relate to that. Our first job, we went and bought 2 fans at Home Depot. Like that was restoration, right? We were
Yep.
carpet cleaners and had an opportunity. So, how did you start to build that business? Like, what did that look like? I mean, obviously you already had a marketing and business background, so that helped you immensely, but still the restoration industry is an animal all into its own. So why don't you walk us through startup with that?
I mean, again, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it was easy, because obviously, there's some struggles along the way, but it certainly wasn't hard either, right? The message that I push to a lot of business owners today is you've got to get familiar with your number one role in your business. And that is 2 things. Number 1, it's marketing. And number 2, it's sales. Everything else is secondary. In most restoration businesses, what we have are a lot of amazing technicians. These are people that really understand the drying science. They really understand the remediation science and everything that goes into that aspect of the business. And when you ask them, hey, what do you do for a living? They're like, I am a restoration business owner, and I do water, and I do mold, and I do bio, and I do this. Right. And so I asked them the exact same question. I'm like, what is it that you do? And they gave me that answer. And I'm like, I think that you've got this all wrong, because what you need to be doing is you need to be looking at yourself as what you really are. And they're like, well, what's that? I'm like, you're a marketer first and you're a closer second. Everything else is secondary, right? Like, that's, you're just marketing and selling the services that you just so happen to be in the business of. In our case, it's restoration, right? Or digital services, or whatever it is that you're in. So when we first started, again, it was just a matter of putting on the thinking cap and really trying to figure out what marketing methods were going to get us in front of the customers that needed our services. And that's what we did. Part of that was, of course, website optimization, making sure that we were dominating the local area, taking full advantage of Google listing, or Google business listing. It used to be Google My Business. Now it's Google business listing. And and obviously using paid methods as well. So as money came in, we would immediately start pouring money into paid methods. These would be things like Homeadvisor, which again, a lot of people hate Homeadvisor, and I don't necessarily, have a horse in that race. But if your customer is somewhere, it's your responsibility to be everywhere that your customer has the potential to be. That's my opinion, right? Because there is a segment of the market that's only going to go to Yelp to look for reviews. They're only going to go to Angie's. They're only going to go to Homeadvisor. They're only going to use Bing as their search engine. They're only going to use Google. So as a marketer first, I look at the landscape and I'm like, where's the path of least resistance where I can get in front of my customers? Where are they located, and how much is it going to cost me for me to go ahead and be in front of those customers? And then, of course, my absolute favorite was Google Ads. Reason why Google Ads is and still to this day is one of my favorite methods, which of course I have a course on, is because this allows you the opportunity to totally shortcut what most people are spending a year to 2 years in order to acquire, which is first page placement on Google. And all you have to do is have a better marketing message, and more importantly, have a better follow-up message. Because a lot of entrepreneurs, what they do is they get their marketing right, but guess what? They don't have a follow-up method, right? So for example, let's use Homeadvisor as an example. And I like using this example because people hate to pay for leads, right? And the reason why they hate paying for leads, it's not because the leads are necessarily garbage. It's because they try to reach out to a client, and then maybe if they're lucky, and if they're vigilant, they reach out 2 times. But then you got to remember, every company did the exact same thing. They reached out once, they reached out twice, that's it. Maybe they left a voicemail. Maybe they sent an email, or maybe they sent a regular old text saying, hey, I'm here, call me, right? So it's very, very lame marketing. What I did was I looked at this as, I've already acquired this name, phone number, and address. How do I maximize this? Right? So then what I would do is I would put everybody that I would pay for into a full blown marketing campaign. Whether I was able to get in contact with them on the phone or not, whether I was able to go ahead and get a reply via email, they would understand that we were there and that we were consistently, in their face. So one of the things that I would do, for example, is I would use the power of video right from my phone. So whereas most people, what they would do is just simply pick up the phone and call the client, we would go ahead and send out a full-blown video saying, hey, this is so-and-so. I just got your name and contact information. This is what we're here to do. Boom, 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 boom. And then I would go ahead and through special software, I would text it to the client. Well, now guess what? If you and 4 other companies were sending a bland text message that just said, hey, this is John over at ABC Company, let us know if we could be of service. And then you got another text message that when you open up that text message, there's a little picture that's moving around, right? And you're like, who is this guy? Which one are you going to open up first? You're going to open up the video first, because curiosity kills the cat, right?
And now there's a face with a name.
Exactly right.
Immediately feel better about you.
100%. So that gives you a competitive edge, right? But unfortunately, in the service-based industry, don't know why, don't understand it. Most people are not looking at it as, hey, I'm already paying for this foot traffic, right? How can I maximize what I have in front of me? Whereas a lot of people were losing their shirts with certain lead mediums. We were making, we were doing very, very well as far as a return on ad spend, because we actually had marketing methods behind it. And that's just like one singular example.
So you had more things happening. You were getting the clients through the ad spend, but you were following up with all those other avenues, which made your ad spend go much further.
100%. And then of course, then one thing leads to the next, which is now you start getting referrals, right? You also got to remember, not everybody is happy with their first choice. Okay. This is the power of follow-up. Sometimes you're going to have a really nice, snazzy salesperson go ahead and outshine you. Maybe they got there a little bit earlier, whatever the case may be. And you just were not able to go ahead and close that contract. Fine, no big deal. Does that mean that you should go ahead and throw that lead away? No, you already paid good money for that lead. What are you doing to nurture that lead?
Yeah.
And that's the missing key that most business owners, unfortunately, really don't have a concept on. Because if, let's say, for example, that contractor drops the ball, and everybody in the contracting business knows that most contractors do, in
happens
fact,
often.
drop. And it could be anything, right? It could be a flat tire on your way to your first day, and all of a sudden this sets this client off. They don't want to do any more business with you. Well, now what are they going to do? Are they going to go back? Do they want to really go back and search for another company? Or are they going to reach out to the company that was giving them valuable information, helping them make the right decision every single step of the way? Even if they didn't hire you, they're going to go back and remember your face and say, hey, or remember your company name and say, you know what, this company, I should have gone with them the first time, because even though we didn't close a deal with them, they were possibly one of the most informative organizations that I had the ability to go ahead and reach out to. You're going to earn that business, right? So those are the kind of methods that I like spending mental bandwidth on, is thinking, how can you maximize, first of all, where can you get in front of clients that have the potential to buy, that have the financial wherewithal to buy, and where is there the least amount of resistance from other contractors? And then, even if it is what they call a red ocean, right, a competitive marketplace, even if there is, where are the areas that they are not marketing, that they're not really enhancing? Those are the things that are important.
No, you get on top of those things, you make a big difference in your whole community. And then those people remember, and they'll refer you to people as you move along, because the floods don't happen every day. So if they remember you, and then somebody happens to them, they could just tell it, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. And also just, having good referral systems in place is extremely important. How you incentivize clients is extremely important. Like, these are all, so here's part of the fundamental problem. A lot of people in business look at marketing as a one-off event. And the reality is that marketing is not a one-off event. Marketing is a journey that never has a destination, right? Every single step of the way, from the very first exposure that a prospect has with your company and your organization, to the moment that they decide to pick up the phone and answer and have that first exposure, to the point where they actually speak to the person on the phone, to then when your tech shows up for the very first time, to then how that tech does their inspection, and whether or not there's marketing material there for that prospect to make them feel like this is the right decision. So to give you an example on this, not to beat the dead horse, but just to kind of paint the picture for you, is most techs, when they come in, or owners, when they come in and they do their first inspection, how does that typically look like? Like, just walk me what that normally looks like.
Yeah, well, you show up, and, there's a flood on site, and you're like, hello, you knock on the door, and you just introduce yourself. Or I guess what you're saying is you could send them a text before you come there with the video.
Well, yeah. So there's a couple of things, right? Number one, you can definitely go ahead and show up, right? But once you show up, and of course you could already like pre-stage everything with like a video, with a text message, with whatever the case may be. So really good front end communication. So that's number one. But once your tech shows up, right, understand that this is a homeowner that needs a product and or service. So now they may be stressed, and they may have a lot of questions. Unfortunately, these questions take a lot of time to explain, and not each and every single one of your technicians are Hemingway. They can't, write extremely well. They're not a, they're not a, a
sometimes their communication
speaker.
skills aren't on point exactly like that at all.
Exactly. So they're not a professional speaker, and or they also have a job to do. So they're under the gun. They need to go ahead and still make the client feel really, really comfortable, but they also have a job to do. So that being said, now most situations, and everybody can relate to this, once somebody shows up at that home, that client is naturally going to show that technician or that owner around. And then at some point, the technician and or the owner says, okay, fantastic, Miss Susie. I'm going to go ahead and do my own walkthrough on the property. And you start doing your inspections, start getting your moisture measurements and all of your readings, right? But where's the owner typically? They're right there on your heels. They're asking you more questions. They're not really, it's kind of like they're hovering over you. To me, this is a bad experience. Number one, it puts a lot of pressure on the technician and or the owner. And then number two, it's not allowing you to market to that client during that, what I call dead air, because that's all dead air, right? So something that you could very easily do is you can arm each and every single one of your technicians and or you as a business owner with one of these bad boys, right? Or something like it, a tablet. And then on this tablet, what you do is you say, fantastic. Once you get through the pleasantries, you say something as simple as, hey, well, look, I'm going to go ahead and do my inspection. And because I really care about each and every single one of my customers, and I understand like how stressful this is and how many questions you may have. And although I've already answered quite a few of them, and I think that I've covered all of the big bases, what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and watch this thing that we've prepared for you. It's about 15 minutes long, but this covers everything from A to Z in a well thought out manner. So that way, you know exactly what this process looks like, who to contact, what your next steps need to be, everything. And then if after that you have any additional questions, please let me know. That should give me enough time to fully do the inspection on the property. Please sit down here, take them to the kitchen table, take them to the couch, whatever, give them the iPad. And now you've got a pre-recorded, beautifully produced video that is doing two things. Number one, it's setting you apart from the competition. That's number one. Number two, it's giving you authority in the marketplace like nobody else in the marketplace. Number three, it is avoiding miscommunication. It is avoiding not informing clients because you were in a rush, because they were in a rush. It avoids all of that. And then most importantly, what it also does is it gives you an opportunity to sell additional products and services. Right? So that's just one example of what a real marketing message looks like. People think marketing and they just think, oh, okay, you're doing websites and you're doing digital, but marketing is a mindset that needs to be part of the everyday business transaction.
So hang on a second. Let me play devil's advocate, because you go to Mrs. Jones' house. She's got a pipe. Half of her house is filled with water, and the technician or the owner, whoever comes in, calms them down, does their best to make them comfortable with them there because they're freaking out. It's a different mindset than if you're selling something. So the video would have to be really empathetic and hit on all those, like you were saying, very professional. Does that always connect with the client under those circumstances?
100%. The only reason why something does not connect is because you're looking at it through your lens, and exclusively that. It's because, again, if you're empathetic as to the situation, right? You're stressed out, you're this, you're that. You know that the homeowner is going under all of these pressures, and you say, great, well, mind you, you've already calmed them down. They should be in a good mind state, right? They should, so they should know that they're in good hands. From there, what you do is you're handing them yet another tool so that they can become now even more informed in a very cool, calm, and collected fashion. Because here's the God's honest truth, right? Let's just take a stressful situation. And then you get guys like us that show up. Listen, they feel vulnerable. Their jugular is exposed. And then now what we're doing is we're saying, hey, well, look, we're going to have to tear up this carpet. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to remove baseboards. We're going to have to do a 2-foot flood cut. And then we may even have to go ahead and pack out this house. What you're doing, or the way that they perceive that, you as a pro, you're saying, hey, I'm doing everything by the book, right? I'm taking care of this client. The client doesn't see that. The client thinks that they've got their guard up. They think that you're trying to sell them more than what they need. But now take that same exact conversation, put it on a pre-recorded video that you are showing to thousands and thousands and thousands of clients at a time. Now the client is looking at this and saying, oh yeah, there was no way that this guy would have known prior to showing up that my situation applied to this. So it can't be sales. This is sheer information. This is how it really works. Do you see the difference there?
No. They see the value of that.
So that's why it connects, because again, it's all in the delivery, it's all in how it's presented, but it's all part of putting their mind at ease and letting them know that you are in fact a professional that's going to be taking care of them.
But it even goes further than that, Rico, because we all know that if you have, let's say, 20 or 30 technicians, you don't always have an estimator that can go run to a new loss, or an owner who can run to a new loss. So if you have this preloaded information sales video, it takes the selling out of the equation for the technician, so that you could actually spread out your on calls. You can not worry that they're not going to sell a job. They have a much better chance with this system that you have than to just go in cold and say, oh yeah, Mrs. Jones, I got to tear your house apart.
100%. If you take it a step further, and this is where you start getting into, and again, we're getting a little bit more into some of the consulting aspects that typically I cover with companies, but you could either do a static video, which would be like a YouTube video. Okay. And that's just the video, you produce it and they just watch the video and that's it. Or you could have it segmented out into small little sections. And as they watch each section, which again, these are like 1 or 2 minute sections. It's not a long section. And now it's got a yes or no, or a series of buttons that they say, yes, I watched it. Yes, I understand and agree. Boom, next video. Yes, I watched it. Yes, I understand and agree. Boom, next video. What happens when you do that? When you do that now, you're also eliminating liability. And you could always go back and say, well, listen, Miss Susie, with all due respect, you saw this portion of the video. We explained it to you in great detail. As a matter of fact, here's the printout of everything that you saw, that you understood, and that you agreed to, all via a video, right? So there's so many things that you could do that don't seem invasive, that cover the back end, but more importantly, instill confidence in the customer. And you're providing them with this experience of, wow, these people have really thought through each and every single step of the process. I feel comfortable with them. They're going to be my contractor. And if one of my friends or family has an issue, they're going to be the ones that I make a recommendation to.
Yeah. And it's automated, which is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Rico, what percentage of restoration companies you think do this?
None. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe a handful of people. And the majority of those is, probably because I've mentioned it, like, very, 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 very few.
And
very
think
few.
Just think about it from a monetary standpoint, right? So you pay business development reps to go door to door. You're paying, Google ads, you're doing all this, and so much of this comes down to your conversion rate when you actually get to go to the front door and sell that loss. Like you can spend and waste so much money. It's almost like a customer onboarding at that point, right?
It's exactly what it is. And that's the way that it's presented. As part of, again, it's just part of a system, and it doesn't have to be elaborate, and it doesn't have to be this Hollywood style production. It's just got to be something simple, sweet, and to the point. And just by doing that, you are head and shoulders above everybody else.
All right, let's take it the next step then. So you get the job, but we all know that there's this like kind of thing that happens, like you're the hero on the first couple days of the MIT job, and now they hate the dehumidifiers, and they hate you, and they hate that this has happened to them. And
you covered that on the video. You covered that on the video. And if you did it right, and again, I'm kind of like, spilling some of the beans here, but in that video, there's going to be a section that talks about some of the potential construction that may have to happen. And a wise question at that moment would be, does anybody in your household suffer from allergies, asthma, or has any kind of respiratory issues? Please answer below. Yes, yes. Okay, now what did I just do there? Number one, I showed concern, first and foremost.
You just sold an air scrubber.
And now, because it's documented, you see what I'm saying? Like this stuff gets nasty, but nobody thinks about it. So now what I've done is I've just, based on the client's request, has now allowed me to sell rental equipment. Do you see that? So now if tomorrow they have an issue, day 2 or day 3, then normally it doesn't happen because you've already covered your bases so well. The reason why people get upset is genuinely because there's something that happens in communication and it didn't happen well. Now, does that mean that 100% of your clients? No, because they're just difficult clients, right? There's clients that you can explain stuff to, you blue in the face, you can have them sign all the documents, you can have them check all the boxes, and they're just not going to get it. They just like to hear themselves talk. So it's not going to eliminate 100% of the headaches, but it will eliminate 98% of them, plus give you the opportunity to go ahead and sell additional portions that maybe you wouldn't have had exposure to.
So then how do you leverage that time and time again? Like how do you take that next step with that process and then get testimonials for the good work and, you know, about the video and about the explanation process, and then parlay that into more jobs?
So there's several strategies there. I mean, just kind of going through the video route, there's things that you could do, for example, independent, and this of course is all contingent upon the client, independent on how you have your organization structured and how dynamic your project managers are per se, or you as a business owner. If you're the business owner, you're the owner operating, you are very nice and friendly and whatever, and you're just a really cool person to deal with, right? And you're just loose and you are yourself. Honestly, video testimonials is just as simple as saying, hey, Ms. Susie, real quick, let me just do, and this is something that I do all the time, and I think that it's amazing, because it's simple. Because if I ask a client, like, hey, do you mind giving me a video testimonial? It's all of a sudden it's weird, right? But now something that I do is like, hey, I'm just gonna go ahead and do a quick video walkthrough on the property real quick. I'll be right back. And then I'll start recording myself, basically doing like a walkthrough and explaining exactly what I did and, you know, going through the story. And then all of a sudden, before I hit the stop button, I go back to Susie and I look and I put her in frame and say, Susie, hey, can you do me a favor and just tell me a quick story? What was your experience with us and how we met and how you think that we handled this entire situation? Different response, because now it's not under pressure. We're just having a conversation, right? So now the problem is sometimes we feel really uncomfortable with that because we feel that we're being invasive. I don't think that that's the case. I mean, we live in a world today where people are extremely comfortable being on video. And if you've built up enough rapport, that's something that you should be able to do. Let's say that you feel that that's too ballsy, that's too aggressive, like your clients would never go for that, which I don't necessarily think that to be true. Then you could just, have really good follow-up on the back end for written Google reviews. If you do not have one of the best digital marketing assets that anybody can use today, and I'm saying today, let's say that you hate marketing companies, which by the way, I suggest that no entrepreneur use a marketing company. That's so important that you should not be outsourcing it. You should not be relying on somebody else to save the day because they have their own metrics. They have their own way of doing business and their own profit centers. You are a profit center for them. Don't think for a second that a marketing company wants to go ahead and give you and blow you up with business so that way you're too overwhelmed and then you just don't need them anymore. Like that's not how marketing companies generate revenue, right? So as a business owner, you should really kind of stay away from marketing companies, in my opinion. And I know that I'll probably get some hate mail for saying that from marketing companies. Mind you, I own a marketing company, right? So, but again, my whole thing is teach you how to fish. Your responsibility as a business owner is, if you care about your community, you really believe in your product or service, you need to learn the basics of marketing. So if you're one of those cats that doesn't like marketing agencies, you think that it's just all a sham, you think that it costs too much money, you just simply don't understand it and you're not comfortable with it, then just do this one free method. Leverage your Google business listing. Your Google business listing is free. If you don't have it, go ahead and claim it. Claim it now. The other thing that you need to do is to make sure that your name, address, phone number is all uniform. So if you spell out street on your street address on Google, make sure that every time that you go ahead and put that out on the internet, it's exactly the same. Google likes uniformity. But now, as far as your Google listing is concerned, you want to make sure that it's optimized by just having simple pictures, job site pictures, real simple stuff. Upload your pictures consistently to your listing. Make sure that if you have team members, you take pictures of your team members. put it up on Google listing, right? Another thing, the reviews will boost your rankings, making sure that you have a system to go ahead and capture reviews. And capturing reviews could be as simple as your technician saying, hey, Susie, do you feel that we, did a good job? And of course, they've built up to this, right? Because hopefully they've been able to romance this client enough, and the client feels like this is a really hardworking individual. And at our core, we really don't want to see anybody suffer, right? Like we don't want to see anybody reprimanded. As a matter of fact, we want to see people kind of advance, like at our core, unless you're just an extremely evil person. So now this technician says, hey, Miss Susie, look, so we're wrapping up here. I hope that you're really happy and excited about, everything that we were able to do for you and your home and your family. This is something that's really important for me. I was wondering if you would do me the honor of giving us a good review, and if you can mention me by name. The reason for it is each week we have a team meeting, and on Mondays, whoever has the most reviews, the most enthusiastic review, we get called out to in front of all of our peers, and everybody just gives us a round of applause for how good of a technician we are. And it really does make all the world of a difference, because I don't just want to be a technician. I want to be a project manager. I want to own my own branch one day, whatever that looks like, right? Create your thing. And now what you've done is you've created a story. People relate to stories. You've created a story as to why this customer now has buy-in and why they want to leave you a good review. And then an additional tip is, in that review, what you want to do is you want to have the client mention typically the city that they were in. So just, I had a water damage, right? So that would be like a keyword in the review. I had a water damage event in the city of Miami, and I was able to contact, ABC company, right? And so-and-so was our project manager, and I must say they did an absolutely amazing job but whatever, right? So now you've got all of those keywords. You've got your city, you've got your company, you've got the services that you provide, and that is now a signal to Google that was free, that now when somebody types into Google in that general area, water mitigation or whatever it is, mold remediation plus the city, your review could potentially pop up, because now Google's got all of that data. And there's tons of free things that you could do like that for free on your Google business listing to totally dominate your general marketplace.
So how do you get a client to include those things? Because it's hard enough to get them to give you one.
I mean, again, it's a matter of just asking, right? And asking and having it prepared. So if you did a water mitigation project, just take a quick moment. Like, first of all, you should already have some examples of what a decent review would look like. So let's say you should have, if you're a water mitigation company, you should have 4 or 5 examples of what a water mitigation or water removal or water extraction, right? You should have all of these, what you consider to be important key words on how your customer uses the internet, right? You got to speak their love language, and then you show them, right? And you text it to them or you email it to them, and you say, please use something like this as an example, right? But in your own words. And you do that right there with them, right? Like you do that right there with them. Say, pull out your phone. I'm going to send you this. Let me know if you got it. They're going to go ahead and pull it up. Yep, I got it. Fantastic. Do me a favor. Just click on that. It'll take them right to the review page, and then that's it. You're off to the races, right? So you should be there. This should not be a passive event. If you look at it as a passive event, you're leaving money on the table.
Yeah, I love how, much pre-work you're doing to get them to give you the result that you want. Because if we rely on them to do it, they're busy people. They just move on. Like, they don't think about us, any past the job. And look, we're all guilty of that, right? Somebody comes and cleans your carpets. You love it in the moment. And as soon as they're gone, you've just moved on.
Exactly right.
Whereas if you're actively teaching them how to do this, it goes a long way.
And letting them understand why. Most people today understand the why it's important, why you're asking what it is that you're asking for. But if you specify it and you say, look, I'm looking for a review, that does this, that says this, because Google shows it to more people. And I want to be a staple in the community, and I want to grow my company, and I want to be a better technician, and I want to be this, and I want to be that. And you are an intricate part of that. If you think that I'm worth it, I mean, you are happy with my service, right, Mrs. Client? Yes. All right, great. So could you please do this for me real quick? But most people will do it right there on the spot. And then the other thing is that you want to take it one step further from it. Once you've got this person's review, right? What are you doing to continue to market to them? Most people are not taking it. Like, they think it's like, okay, I'm done. Great. I just made X amount of dollars. This client's not going to need me again. That client knows people. That client may have a need for your services sometimes sooner than you could have ever thought possible.
Well,
right?
It's funny. We all know this, that the clients that have losses often are the people who don't take great care of their homes and buildings. So they have another one.
Yeah.
And another one. Larry
and
I
sometimes
every year.
Sometimes we've seen it in the exact same home within a 2-week time frame. Insanity.
Yeah. Like, we've had that before. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's like the homeowner's like, I can't believe you're back. It's like, you know, I mean, that's why we stay in touch, because we know things like this happen. So looking at that client as not just a one-off, one of the best metrics that can totally change the dynamic on how a company is profitable and how they look at profitability and how they look at cash flow is one particular metric, which is LTV, right? Which is the lifetime value, right? Lifetime value of a client. Now, typically this is used more on e-com. Usually this is used more for, you know, some kind of like physical product. However, every client and every business has a lifetime value that they can go ahead and allocate an average to, because naturally you're going to have certain people. Let's say that you only get 100 clients a year. Out of those 100 clients, you're probably going to have 5 of them that are cheerleaders for you and your business. In other words, these are very well-connected people. They have a good network, and they're constantly, you are the only recommendation that they make. What those 5 people are doing for your business, if they just add one additional client to your client base each and every single year, that now has taken your average order from whatever that number was and bumped it up. The problem is that now across all clients, right? So if every client made you $1,000 and then 5 people are making you an additional recommendation, if you allocate that money back and you distribute that, well, now maybe the average is $12.50, let's say, right? So now instead of your average cost or order being $1,000, now your average ticket across the average is $1,250. Well, now what does that tell you? What that tells you now is that you can actually outspend your competition in the marketplace. So while other people are like, I could never spend $1,000 to acquire a client, I look at that and I'm like, that's because you don't know your numbers, because you don't understand how this works. Because I'm willing to spend $2,000 to acquire a client because I understand my numbers, and I understand that over the course of the next 6 months, each one of my clients is not worth an average of X. They're actually worth an average of X. And I keep marketing to them, and I keep milking it and digging into their network and their resources and their, BNI connections and all of this stuff. So it goes a lot deeper than a lot of business owners are looking at.
Yeah, I'd like to, Larry, go ahead. Looks like you have a question.
No, I was going to say, knowing your numbers and how much each client is worth is very valuable, and looking at them continuously, because those KPIs give you insight into your marketing and to what's happening with your clients and your business. I want to go back real quick, just 1 second, because you were saying the technicians were creating patterns and doing things so that they can get the review, because you're not always going to be there with the camera to take that video with the client. So you got to have a great culture. You must have an amazing culture so that your technicians are ready to wow the clients and be willing to ask for the review. And that's what makes it easier to get those video testimonials, to get the Google testimonials that you're talking about, because it's it's almost cultural, that it's ingrained in the technicians. Every time you talk to the client, you have to do something leading up to that great review at the end.
Exactly. Leaving behind little, again, people like to give back, especially once they've received something, right? And that could be something simple, something that I think for remediation companies, that's really easy and it doesn't like cause a dent in your profitability, is something as simple as an air filtration device. Right. So let's say, for example, you just finished doing mold remediation. What's the one question that you always get from practically 90% of the clients is, how do I prevent this from happening again? Well, the real answer is that you really don't. But what you could do is we can go ahead and provide you with this free gift. Here's something that, that's going to put your mind at ease. This will go ahead and clean the air. This will do this. This will do that. Our simple gift to you. Hey, by the way, scan this card. Here's a QR code that's going to lead you to a video that's going to walk you through the instructions on how to go ahead and provide us with a review. It would mean the world to us, right? So this is a simple transition, right? There's 1,000 ways to skin this cat. A lot of it is dependent on company culture, obviously. A lot of it is dependent on who you want to give this responsibility to. I personally do not believe that it should be each and every single technician on your team, because honestly, not everybody's going to be good at communicating, but those people are typically technicians. They're not your project manager. Your project manager, however, if you're sending them out as a project manager and they're going to be the front-facing individuals for your company, I would hope that you feel comfortable enough with the way that they speak to your clients, with the way that they care about your clients. And that should translate really, really well on video. So those should be the type of individuals that are kind of spearheading this whole thing.
I want to switch gears, Rico, real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap. Oh, can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about referral sources. So a lot of what we've talked about marketing wise has been, kind of direct to customer through digital, right? But, look, a lot of restoration companies, ours especially, we marketed to plumbers, we marketed to property managers, what's your take on that? Like, what is your method of getting those referral partners who can give you work, day in, day out, week in, week out in multiples?
And so that's an amazing question. And I want to answer that with as much transparency as possible. The reality is that I'd be giving away the farm. So I'll try to kind of to whet everybody's beak. First of all, I'll start saying by the majority of the referral partners, the way that they're acquired is really taxing, and it's non-scalable. It's, it's very old fashioned, and, it involves a lot of cold calling, going out, shaking hands, kissing babies, and hoping that you find a match made in heaven. You're hoping that you're dynamic enough and that this person is so fed up with their previous relationship that they want to engage with you in a new relationship, right? Or what we see a lot of in the industry is that you're just paying exuberant amount of money, let's say, to plumbers, and the relationship is built 100% on, the financials, on what they're going to get for a particular lead, let's say. Same thing happens with like business development. A lot of the biz dev people, what our industry calls marketers, which they don't understand why they call marketers. I think that's it's a non-scalable way of doing things. And it also doesn't build any kind of confidence in the people that you're calling on, mainly because, let's say, for example, how many times are you really going to visit somebody before you just have to move on and you have to visit somebody else, right? It's a numbers game. There's only 8 hours in a workday, or 10 hours. Let's call it, 14 hours in a workday, right? And you're just knocking on doors, and you're just eventually there's no more time on your schedule. Someone's going to have to fall off, and everybody's banking on the leftovers. Everybody's banking that Rico will come in, right? Because, Susie, the biz dev person at this big box company, just didn't have time to get to this guy anymore. And I just walked in at the right time, and boom, I'm his guy now, right? That's bad, like really, really bad. The responsibility of this, in order to make it scalable, in order to make it work, falls on ownership. Most companies are not giving the resources that these business development people need to have them stand out. What are you doing? You're doing an emergency response plan? Like, that's special? You're telling me that that's special? The only reason why this is special now is because 6 months ago you were dropping off donuts. Like, that's the only reason why this is special, right? But now every other company is doing that. The rep that you are sending does not have any authority. They are not standing out any different than anybody else. And here's the catch. The company, if that business development person leaves, where is the connection between the owner or the company and that person that they were prospecting, the person that they were romancing? Where's that connection? That's
There is
gone.
none. The book of business probably will follow the rep.
Right. The book of business will probably follow the rep. Or if there is no book of business yet, and there was a book of prospects, let's call it, the owner did absolutely nothing to insert his company, himself, his organization, his ideals, his mission statement to that individual, right? To the decision maker at that facility, as the facilities managers or what have you. So what do you do in order to prep your people with the tools and the resources to make them look like superstars? Now, there is an answer to that. Unfortunately, I just can't, spill the beans on what that answer is. But I think that I've given you enough of a line to start thinking of and be like, how can I genuinely set myself apart? And if you're thinking emergency response plan and that if you do it in a digital way, that it's going to make you, it's not. Just stop, right? You have to take it a step further and you have to cut through the noise, because these people are being visited several times a week. Everybody's out to get their business. And everybody's just like, oh, so you're sending into a game, you're doing this, you're doing that. And they'll take it. Like, look, invite me to a baseball game. I'll go. I don't even like baseball, but I'll go, So, you invite me to a nice meal, odds are I'll probably go, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to earn my business. And it certainly doesn't mean that you're competent at dealing with, with my particular needs. If anybody's ever seen the movie Pursuit of Happiness, there's a scene where he's trying to pitch, a stock account, and he's in I think he's in a game, right? And he takes his son to the game, and he's really excited, and he's like, hey, he's like, look, you just don't have the experience, but enjoy the game. I'm not going to go ahead and give you business, right? So just because you're in proximity doesn't mean that you're going to win. The only way that you win is genuinely setting yourself apart and building a long-lasting marketing relationship to constantly be front of mind. And I want to make this very clear so that there's no confusion. Marketing is not digital marketing. Marketing is a mindset. It's each and every single possible channel that you can use at your disposal in order to get your message in front of the people that you want to do business with. This is not lead generation. This is lead nurturing. Lead nurturing is intended to build a sale later on down the road. Unfortunately, most people just don't have the intestinal fortitude, or they don't have the mental stamina that's needed in order to think through the process. And that's why I think TPA work is really popular. Program work is really popular, because this just takes the thinking out of most entrepreneurs' mind, and they don't have to think through these steps. But
yeah, but you're paying to not think.
Yeah, exactly. And once the reality is that once you have an understanding of what this landscape looks like, and once someone shows you once, you can't unsee it. You can't unthink it. You can't go back to, lighting your home with candles, right? Like, once you had lights for the first time, people are like, I'm not ever using this candle stuff again, unless it's a romantic endeavor, right? So that's kind of like what marketing is once you understand what that landscape looks like.
Yeah, that's really interesting, man, because I think the majority of companies are, delivering donuts and pineapples and all the other things. And Larry and I have done plenty of that. And yeah, it'd be interesting to hear your full thing. So, Rico, is there like a course or something that goes with that?
So on the digital, as far as the eventual answer is going to be yes. There is going to be full-fledged, like, over the shoulder already pre-printed resources and everything it is that we've been able to put together and acquire over the years, that will be made eventually to the public. As of right now, it's all on this side, especially for the door-to-door business development. Like that's just done in a consulting style, just because, again, we don't want to flood the market with with what really works all at one shot. And we much rather have because it takes a certain type of organization. It's not for everybody, right? Like a lot of people are business owners, not everybody's an entrepreneur. And it takes a certain type of business owner, entrepreneur, to say, this is where the market is going. And either I'm going to be following everybody else, or I'm going to be the one leading the pack. So I would much rather work one-on-one with those organizations on a consulting basis than not. And then as far as like an actual course, like we do have our Google Ads domination, which in my opinion is a path of least resistance for the companies that are trying to get to their first million, or they hit their million, but they're trying to get to, their $2 or $3 million in revenue. And Google Ads has never been one of those things. And they don't have a great SEO presence. Google Ads, if you can master that, it'll give you a crash course on good copywriting. It'll give you a crash course on, how to get right in front of the end consumer that you really want. And more importantly, it'll give you that immediate shot in the arm as far as financials, because you can gauge it really quick. You put $1 in today, and then 6 months, over the course of 6 months, you could look at that very, very clearly and be like, this is extremely profitable, or it's not working. We need to change directions, right? So like a lot of other marketing methods, digital marketing methods, sometimes it's like there's not a direct correlation between the money you spend and the money you made. Whereas I like to hold my marketing responsible via dollars. Like, don't tell me that you went out and you shook 14 hands. How many of those hands gave you money? So if and too many marketers have no responsibility and no ties to the financial aspect of things, and they just kind of hope. And luckily for the restoration arena is that we are an extremely profitable business, because every time you get a deal, I mean, there's a pretty good profit margin there that you can kind of, not get all things right. But that's basically the way that we look at it.
No, I love that. So Rico, how does everybody get a hold of you if they want to look into some consulting, or they want to buy a course? How do they find you?
Yeah, that's so LinkedIn would be a great way for you guys to go ahead and reach out. You could always find me at Rico Garcia Jr., or just head on over to restorationdomination.com, and there's going to be plenty of ways for you to go ahead and get a hold of us there. So yeah, I think that those would be the absolute two best methods.
All right. Well, dude, thank you so much. That was like a master class.
Yeah, dude, that was great. It was very helpful.
My
People
mind
are definitely
is,
going to benefit.
my mind is swollen right now, dude.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on the show, and I hope that all your listeners got some value from spending some time together. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, Rico.
All right, Rico. We're out, buddy. Pleasure.